Former Deputy Pitman, you recently returned to the island of Jersey to give public evidence to the ongoing child abuse inquiry. Firstly, how do you fit in as a witness to this inquiry?
Well, in a number of ways. I mean, firstly, I was, as some of your viewers may know, I was actually a professional youth and community worker, employed by Education, Sport and Culture for a number of years before I got elected. Once I did get elected, I certainly led the BDO Alto Scrutiny Review. This was into the financial management of Operation Rectangle. A review which, of course, led to the first revelation that it was actually former SIO Mick Gradwell who'd been leaking evidence to both UK and local journalists during the live child abuse investigation.
Yeah.
And I was obviously one of those few, a handful of states members who fought over many years to get us to the stage where we actually had an independent child abuse inquiry.
Tell us about your experience with the inquiry team and your giving of evidence at the public hearing the other day.
Well, it's actually gone over a long period when I look back on it now. I first gave evidence to the lawyers for the child abuse inquiry some 17 months ago. This eventually culminated in a witness statement, a signed witness statement, which was some 208 pages, supported by more than 20 documents. Right up to a few days before I was to deliver my evidence in public, I was actually been given further documents by the lawyers from the care inquiry and asked to familiarise myself with these in order that I may be questioned upon them.
So what documents were these that they gave to you?
Well, these, in some cases, these were big documents. The Vulnerable Children's Review itself, a document of more than 100 pages, a lot of recommendations and findings. The actual Minister's response to that document, which is a significant document itself. And of course, once you got into this, you then had to familiarise yourself with, I think it was P145 in 2009. Which was brought by the Health and Social Services Scrutiny Panel, a proposition which was lost, of course, asking for a review into the behaviour of senior management and civil servants.
In the Health and Social Services?
Yep. And I was also asked to familiarise myself with what I can only describe as a lot of segments of transcripts from states' debates. Now, I should enlarge upon this because these were segments, they weren't even dated, they weren't complete debates. So this involved even further research on my behalf because I had to know, I had to be able to set these in context. What was I going to be asked about? I really had no idea. And I have to say the lawyers weren't very helpful.
So you did research, you read all the stuff that they sent you because you were going to be asked on it.
I did do that, and as you can probably appreciate, and your viewers will probably appreciate, there was an awful lot of work involved in that. You know, as I say, I repeat, I'd already submitted a 208-page document. I'm given all this extra material to read, and I spent several days, actually, probably the best part of a week, just on that additional material alone. In fact, I was even asked to familiarise myself with the original letter signed by Ursula Fever, leading to the vote of no confidence in former Health Minister Senator Sivray.
And were you? What questions were you asked? This is
Well, this is the moot point here. It emerged in giving my evidence that I wasn't asked about any of this material, which I have to say I feel quite aggrieved about. I'd spent a lot of time researching this. In fact, I was hardly asked about any of my evidence at all. All they seemed interested in was my time, which is of course relevant, being employed by Education, Sport and Culture as a professional youth worker.
So, but there was 3 particular documents, if I recall correctly, that you wanted the care inquiry to obtain. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about those documents?
Yes, indeed. Well, there were 3 particular things that as I say, I first gave evidence in the form of putting together a statement some 17 months ago. I requested that they make their best efforts to secure 3 particular things. One of those, and perhaps the most important, it actually probably comes down to dozens upon dozens of documents. We're talking about between 3 and 5 boxes when collated of evidence which a member of the public got in touch with me, a former States employee, had discovered these hidden under property holdings buildings, and it all contained letters from lawyers and parents complaining about the abuse of children in the 1970s and 80s. Now, you don't need to be a rocket science to understand why these could be of huge importance. Yeah. And the thing was, I'd given evidence to the lawyers as to who had these documents last, because they were found, and the employee, was very diligent. He took them to his line manager. His line manager, in his own words, became evidently very upset by the material which she read. She would only then hand it over to superiors if they agreed to sign for it, and she got signatures for this material. So we have the names, we know how far up the chain all these documents go, but then I've been horrified to find out that they've just disappeared.
And the care inquiry, I mean, do you know if they've attempted to acquire these documents, or and the states just aren't handing them over, or haven't bothered?
Well, prior to me leaving the island, I was already told that the states were claiming they couldn't find them; they'd vanished, which probably suggests.
Yeah, there's a lot of vanishing going with documents, and another of the documents was you asked the care inquiry to get hold of the transcripts, which we've published on the blogs, of the in-camera debate where the then Home Affairs Minister Andrew Lewis gave, shall we say, a differing account of documents he had seen and hadn't seen to what he had given, the account he had given to the Napier Review and the Wiltshire Review. Yeah. So you asked the care inquiry to get hold of that in-camera debate?
I did, because as anyone who's followed all this as it unfolds knows, that is of significant importance to the suspension of former Police Chief Graham Power. I mean, you've probably been quite diplomatic there. To my mind, what was said within that debate, that in-camera debate, clearly shows that somewhere there's a lie. There's 2 inconsistent versions of what happened. Did the minister see this damning interim review, or did he not?
Well, that's a blog on itself. Well, we have covered that quite extensively on the blog, and obviously we know the Metropolitan Police said it wasn't a damning review anyway, because we know that through Operation Tumour. But the care inquiry haven't got hold of that Hansard from that debate?
No, the story with this one is that apparently the states are blocking it, saying that it's privileged. As we all know, anyone who's followed the Jersey way knows that if the child abuse inquiry cannot get a handle on the Jersey way and the role the judiciary plays in this, then we're probably all wasting our time, because it's absolutely key. Now, many of your viewers will be familiar with the Sharp report. The Sharp report, which was into the Jervis Dykes
Victoria College
abuse, which was evidently covered up for many, many years. The thing is, with the Sharp report, there were 6 appendices. It's well known that these exist. In fact, I know they exist from the previous education minister. So I'd asked that the care inquiry, the child abuse inquiry, also ascertain these. Why they're important is because they confirm evidence, not only in my own statement, but then in evidence that I believe you've also seen from a former police officer, Mr. Cornelison. What's crucial here is the fact that it reveals that we have had a person allowed to be a juror for many, many years, who had not only happily disregarded evidence of child abuse, but according to Mr. Cornelison, had actually bullied, in his words, at least one child into not making complaints about being abused. Now, obviously, those at the top of our judiciary fully aware of this. There can be no dispute about this. We've had 3 bailiffs who've been happy to allow this continue. And yet, we're told that we can't have the appendices to the Sharp report either. They're unprivileged. Well, as I think I touched upon a little earlier, the judiciary is so crucial because they're the ultimate power, if you like. They're key to everything. You've got these very powerful figures. You know, people watching from outside Jersey won't really understand, but we have a situation here where our judiciary and legislature is not separate. We have one man bestriding both. An unelected judge, he's also the president of the states. They're key to everything because they control everything. And if we're not going to look at how we can have people clearly unfit to hold office are allowed to sit in judgment on evidence in court, then what's ever going to change? You know, I came back to the island and I was quite horrified to see a statement from Senator Paul Routier claiming with an apparently recent development in child protection failures that lessons had been learnt, but it's not about apportioning blame. How many times, I say to your viewers, how many times have we heard these words said? So if we're not going to look at the judiciary, I put it to you, we're not going to understand anything, and it doesn't matter what the child abuse inquiry team come up with, nothing is going to change.